Whoa, it's Thursday.
Wow, that came really quickly.
It sure did.
Yeah, Thursday creeped up on us, but hello, everybody. Tonight is the prospecting call with Frankie Shayne and Katie Lane. So we're going to go through some stuff tonight. Now, tonight's call is what's with the attitude?
Whoa.
Okay.
I know. I'm glad that you checked me
Yeah.
if I had one.
Yeah. So tonight we're going to talk about the attitude you should have while prospecting, while doing the process, and I'll explain that a little more. And then the attitude you should have towards your prospects. As you all know, when you get involved in this, you're dealing with other humans. And when you're dealing with other humans, there are a lot of things that you're going to rub some people the wrong way simply by calling or approaching them. Other people are going to be confrontational after the fact because something you say challenges them. Sometimes people are going to just be off-putting or they'll make a good initial contact and then they just seem to dodge you all the time.
Yeah.
So, it can be a frustrating situation. It can affect your attitude. Now, we can affect our behavior pretty easily. A person can change their behavior. We see that all the time. But to really change a person's attitude, like the real core of everything, it takes a little bit more than just changing your behavior. That's why so many times you see people that, they change their behavior and everything looks good, but then something sets them off by hitting a deeper part of them, and that attitude that they've held this whole time, despite the behavior, comes out. So what I want to talk to you tonight about is what's with the attitude. What about the attitude that you have towards these different areas of prospecting? What's the right kind of attitude to have, and what are some ways to help achieve that?
I like that.
So, but
I dive right in.
Yeah, so you gotta have something that hooks people.
Yeah.
So when you say what's with the attitude, obviously
They're
people,
like, what?
they're like, wait, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Because we oftentimes think of the negative first.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So I'll play on that if I have to get your attention.
Yeah,
So first off, okay, so how are thinking towards our prospects or toward the prospecting, towards the process itself and your prospects affects your success? Okay, I've got a lot of notes tonight, so I will be reading these and not always looking straight at you guys or with my great co-hosts here. So, but we will be bouncing questions off each other as we always do, because that's what we do. Okay.
That's how we roll.
So the first thing is, how should we think about prospecting? Okay. Prospecting in and of itself. Well, first of all, prospecting is the first step in discovering, creating, and nurturing your future leaders and comrades. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty simple, but we often don't think of it in those terms.
Right.
But so what's the right attitude to have when you're prospecting someone? Well, first off, you want to be positive going into it. And you want to value each person, each prospect that you talk to. And you even want to value the people that are going to tell you no.
Yeah.
So check that out. The people that are telling you no, the people that are wasting your time, as some would say. You want to value, why would you value those people? Any ideas?
I'm gonna guess that it's because you can learn something from every experience.
Correct. You can. Every time something like that happens, you can learn from it. One of the things you can learn from a no is this: a no is not your responsibility.
Yeah.
Because you can give a perfect presentation. Sorry, had a brain stall there.
Yeah.
You can have a perfect presentation. You can be as polite and kind as possible. You can have great interaction with these people. And at the end of that, they can still tell you no. Why? Because that's on them, not on you. So when you hear a no, first off is understand that no's can help. You can learn something from it. One of the things you can obviously learn from that is that when someone tells you no, that has nothing to do with your performance, has nothing to do with your presentation, has nothing personally to do with you, that they said no, because you could have done everything perfect. They could have said no. And if it was something that you did, it still don't take that on, because you could have done it perfect and they could have said no. So even if you messed up and they said no, it doesn't matter. You move on.
Yeah.
Another great thing to be positive about no's is no's open the opportunity to move towards the next yes. Okay. It's this is a very simple thing, but so many times we don't think about this. We take it personal. I can't believe I spent all that time. I gave them this great presentation and they told me no. What did I do wrong?
Right.
I thought I did everything right. I told them about the product. No. Just move on. It's okay.
Yeah.
No's are fine. No one's ever died from hearing the word no.
Right.
At least not to my knowledge.
Right. I've only died a couple times because I said no.
Yeah.
And it's because I said no.
Yeah. You're the internet guru. Have you found anything on the internet where the word no killed anyone?
No.
See? Oh, see? Exactly. So another thing that's going to help you in the prospecting is to have a thankful attitude that you have people to share the opportunity with. Okay. Sometimes people say, well, how can I have a thankful attitude because I'm prospecting? Well, you could be a prospector that has a great presentation, is ready to go, and you have absolutely no one to talk to.
Right.
So be thankful that you have the opportunities put in front of you that you can take advantage of. Okay. So you can find thankfulness in anything. And here's the great thing about being thankful. It's nearly impossible to be negative about something while being thankful at the same time.
Yeah.
When you're thankful for something, that combats negativity. So it gives you this positive feeling, this positive outlook, because you're forcing yourself to find the good in something, to be thankful for something in a situation. Now, once someone signs, okay, now you've passed this, okay, now let's say you're not at the prospecting stage, but you're at the stage where they're part of your group. Now your attitude should become that of a nurturer and of someone supporting and someone helping in those people and helping those them become better leaders, because in the long run, that's what this is all about. We've talked about this on several of these calls. It's about relationships. It's about building trust. It's about building that loyalty, that bond. And so when you take on, once you've gotten someone in, you take on the attitude of someone that's nurturing, someone that's supportive, someone that's helpful to those in your group, you're going to create a stronger group, and you're going to create a team that's just going to be unstoppable.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The other thing we mentioned that your attitude will affect is the process itself. Now, this is just short because we cover some of this in what we just talked about, but the process, choose to embrace the process and embrace an attitude of willingness. What do we mean by embrace an attitude of willingness? Okay. Embracing the process. What do you mean? Okay. Well, the process is from A to B to C to D to all the way through. The process is A, prospecting someone, B, working with them once they decide to sign to become a leader, and C, nurturing them, and then creating within them the ability to do this all themselves.
Right.
That's all part of this process. Okay. Yes. But you have to have an attitude of willingness. What is that attitude of willingness that I'm talking about? You have to be willing to commit to do what it takes to be successful in that relationship with that person. Now, that could be anything from taking a call where they're on a different time frame. Let's say you're way on the East Coast or on the West Coast, there's a 3-hour difference, and they can only talk to you at 9 o'clock at night. That means it's going to be midnight or 1 a.m. where you're at.
Yeah.
Are you willing to stay up that extra time, put in that little bit of extra effort to work with them, to build, to answer questions, to make sure they're getting their orders right, to make sure they're understanding what's going on? Another thing is being willing to sometimes wait. Sometimes when you're trying to prospect someone, they can't do it right then. They can't do it right now, but they are interested. And they say, well, give me another month.
Right.
That can be a frustrating situation because sometimes a month becomes another month, becomes another month, becomes a year. But when you continue to have a willing attitude and a good attitude in working with them, always getting the information they need, always working with them. I've seen people that have been in the pipe, if you will, for months, even years, suddenly sign on and become one of the best distributors we've had.
Right.
And part of the reason they did it, and they will tell you this, because you took the time and you never made them feel like they were a burden, despite the fact they didn't sign up at the beginning and you had to contact them, every couple months, stay in touch with them, whatever. And the fact you stayed faithful in that, and not made them feel as though they were a burden or a drag because they weren't just signing up, those people turn around and sign up.
Yeah.
So willingness to stick to it despite all these different challenges, that's the type of attitude you need to have throughout the process. In the process itself, you just need to be willing to commit to it and stick with it.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. not as easy to do. Easy to say, not easy to do. Okay, and then the third thing I wanted to cover was, what should your attitude be towards your prospects? Now, this one, I've got several things on here, so we're going to cover this. And so your prospects. Okay, first off, right out of the gate, let's just say this. People can be frustrating. People can be discouraging. People can be off-putting. But your attitude towards them will most likely determine the outcome of your interactions with them.
Yeah.
Okay. We've had people who were real challenging to work with. And many times it's no fault of their own. It's just the way they are, the way they've come up. And it's just the way that they know to interact with people. Yeah. And sometimes they can be, just really tough to work with. We've had some in the past that were just some real doozies. But when we took the time and we were willing to work with them through that and realize that even though they were off-putting and even those things, we were willing to tolerate that, willing to be a pillow, if you will, and work with them, that those people became some of our strongest leaders. Right. Because that same attitude that was off-putting was also an attitude of tenacity. And when they really set their mind to something, man, they went for it. Yeah. So just remember that your attitude towards those people, when they're frustrating, when they're discouraging, when they're off-putting, when you feel like you're wasting your time with them, the way you respond to them is going to determine the outcome of this whole thing. Right. So how do you respond to them? Well, remember this: you can only fake being nice to someone for so long. Okay, I mean, there's a point to this, because it takes more effort to actually have the right attitude and change. Because as we mentioned before, you can change your behavior. You can put on a smile. You can treat them nice, even though inside it is eating you up and you want to tell them off. Okay. when they're at that point, that's the attitude. The attitude you have towards them is what you really want to say or what you want to feel. Right. But the way you treat them is a behavioral thing. People can change their behavior. It takes much more effort, much more awareness to actually change your attitude towards that person. So this is a little deeper, but that's what I'm talking about now, is that you can change your behavior towards a person, but the attitude, it will eventually come out. Right. How many times have you just put up with someone, and you tried, and one day, because you just don't deal with it, you finally snap. Mm-hmm. And even though you've done well, that time you snap, everyone's like, where did that come from? Right. Fact was, you had an attitude the whole time, even though your behavior didn't necessarily signal that. Mm-hmm. So how do we change this? How do we change our attitude towards someone? Well, you need to change your perspective or your perception of your prospects. Okay. See them. This is getting a little psychological here. I like it. Yeah. Thank you. So see them as someone's child. Okay. Everybody that is anybody that's on this earth was someone's little child, was someone's baby, was someone's, little buddy, was someone's little baby girl. Everybody was. Okay. When you can begin to view people in that respect, now I know they're full grown adults. I know they've got attitudes. I know they're able to speak their mind to you. So it's not like that innocent little child, but remember, they started out that way. And so however they got to where they're at now, it was through things that happened in their life that you and I have no concept of. We have no understanding of, and that's okay. Right. But what we need to do is look at them as someone that's been someone else's special little child. Okay. Now I know that seems weird to say on a prospecting call, but hear me out. Because when you view them as someone that you just have to tolerate, then you're never truly going to change your perception of them. It's like, well, I just got to put up with them for now. Right. But imagine if it were your own child, how much tolerance you would have for your little child when they, poop their pants. Right. Or when they pick up and eat something off the floor. Mm-hmm. When they smack another kid, or they grab the cat and throw it down the stairs because they don't know any better. Yeah. You have a lot of tolerance for people. Told them the same thing for 3 times, gosh, yeah. And they still won't do it. Yeah, yeah. So when you can see that is something that that you see people through that lens, it will start to change your attitude when you can change your perception of those people. And when you change your attitude, then it becomes a real heartfelt tolerance, if you will. And it's not so much tolerance as it is a humility and a willingness to help them.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to do, is you want to achieve that to where your prospects, you feel a willingness to support them, a willingness to help them truly, not just because it's the nice thing to do, which is what so many people do, and then it doesn't last. So remember that this is a process, okay? And that where people are at in that process is going to vary. And that because of that, as we mentioned earlier, because we don't know where people are at in this process, sometimes this may not be the right opportunity for them, or at least not the right opportunity for them right now, where they're at. Again, we can't take offense at that. We can't take a no or take, I want to wait, and be offended at that. We can't allow that to discourage us and change our attitude. We need to keep that positive attitude, and that's this attitude of wanting to be supportive and helpful to these people and offer them something that we have that we know can help them. Now, another thing, and this is a mistake that I've made, as a rookie mistake that I've made in the past. I know you've probably experienced this as well. And this is something that that I think is important along with this about your prospects, is that just because you feel like you gave a great presentation, just because you feel like they're ready to sign up, means nothing to them. That absolutely does not mean that they're ready to sign up. So when you look at your prospects and you say, well, I just don't understand why they're not signing up. I gave them a perfect presentation. I feel like it was great. I did this. That's one-sided. And until you know what they're thinking, you cannot make an assumption that anything you said was perfect. In your estimation, it was perfect, because if you were a prospect, that may have gotten you. But it doesn't mean the person that you're prospecting, that's the same line of thought they're on. So you have to understand that, because again, that can be discouraging, that can be off-putting, that can put you in a situation mentally where you just like, why do I even try? You know, that was perfect. Caitlin, I nailed it. I'm telling you, I nailed it, girl. And how did this person not sign up? But you can't take that on personally. Okay. And be willing to invest the time and even sometimes wait on people. I mentioned this before, for when they're ready. Your opportunity, as great as it is, may not be for everyone. And some people are just going to pass on it. Some people are not looking for a company doing nutrition. Okay. To us, that makes no sense, but because it affects everyone. But you have to understand, not everyone's in the same spot we're at. Some people would rather go for a company that has a high ticket, one-time sale item. Some people would rather go for a service-oriented, travel, legal, whatever. There's different strokes for different folks, and it's okay. That's okay. So when you're prospecting, these are all things to keep in mind, that you need to understand the right attitude to have when you're approaching people, because your attitude towards this whole process, towards these prospects, towards prospecting in and of itself, all of this, these attitudes that you have and that you hold, will make a complete difference in how you effectively build your business. If your attitude is wrong and you look at everything wrong and everything's woe is me and everything is just that, I know it's hard. We know it's hard. It's not easy. And when you've got something like 4Life, you've got a gold mine, but because of the way that we're structured, we don't go for the hype. We don't go for the, we don't front load with all this stuff that people. That's why it works. That's why it works. But it's why some of these people always jump to something else, because they go for the excitement. They go for the flash and the style over substance. That's not what this company is about. This company is about substance. This company is about legitimacy. This company is about fairness and stability and the pay structure. Those are the things that we're built on, and that's what a solid company should be built on. Many of these companies that people have been with, I talk to people all the time, all day long. I talk to people and they tell me, man, I'd heard of this company 10 years ago. You probably heard this too. Heard of this company 10 years ago. It sounded like a great thing, but this other company's had all this flash and boom. And so I went with that company and made some money in it. And then the company closed down. Lost my entire line, had to start from scratch, had to start working a part-time job just to get back on my feet. Got back on my feet, started another company. It sounded great. Same story. I got into it. They changed the pay plan on us. half my group left because of that. Then the company switched owners, and then it went under.
Yeah.
And yet here it is 10 years later, you guys are still here, and I knew about you 10 years ago, I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, you could have, you know. So, you know, it's worth the effort to get the right attitude, to look at your prospects, your prospecting, so that you can be successful at whatever company. These principles, we're talking about 4Life research. We're talking about DiamondsR4Life, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But these principles will help you no matter what company you go into.
Yeah.
That's what our training is about. Our training is not only about just making sure you're good at 4Life. We want to help you become a better leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, essentially a better leader no matter where you go. Now, of course, we hope you stay here. We hope that you understand what a great opportunity this is and that this is where you need to be. But regardless of what you choose, just like these people I talked about, you could choose to do something else. If you do, I still want you to be successful no matter where you go.
Right. Well, and these are success principles.
Mm-hmm.
Principles never change.
Right.
You know, the situation that you might apply the principles in might be different, but these success principles that you learn in these trainings that we do, you can use in literally every aspect of your life. And I really like the change of attitude that you were talking about, because it is true. You can only go for so long before you feel like, well, I just blew up on him. I had enough.
Right.
Well, you had enough because the whole time you had this specific attitude, you were trying to apply some kindness. Right. Instead of being kind. Right. Like, I just really like that. I think this is a super awesome subject for today. Cool. And it must have been one of those, like, you heard from a prospect or something, and you're like, I know what the subject is for this week.
That's exactly what happened. I was doing calls this week and somebody said something that I was like, that's a good subject, you know? And he didn't even realize it, and I didn't bring it up to him, but it was just something he said. And
this is the perfect
I'm like, wow. I got off the call and I thought, you know, that was a good call. I learned something here, because it was what he was challenged with in the presentation was nothing that I was trying to challenge him with. Right. But and the way I responded to him, I was like, it kind of took me back with it. I was like, where did you get that from? But then as we began to talk more about the opportunity, I just kind of let it go, and I decided to listen to what he was saying and try to apply our opportunity to what he was showing me. He didn't realize he was showing me his need through the things he was saying. And then when I got off that call, which, you know, is one of those ones where he asked for information, we sent it to him, so I'll get back with him. But it took a turn. Now, it could have gone a completely other way had I had a negative attitude towards him, been like, okay, well, thanks, you know, see you later. I'm done. You know, I would never attack someone, but if someone is just obviously they're not interested, and it's made very clear they're not interested, and all they're wanting to do is essentially argue while I'm on the phone, then I just find a way out and I get off the phone. Right. This wasn't quite that situation, but it gave me the idea. It was like, wow, you know, your attitude towards your prospects is a big deal. But not only my attitude towards him, but my attitude towards that whole conversation. Right. That's where I realized, well, there's more than just the person. There's also the process I went through with him. And then prospecting in general, sometimes people it sours them. Yeah. You know, they want to get people, but you say prospecting and people are just like, oh, that's such a headache. You know, I've got to call people I don't know. Here's the thing, you don't know them. You'll probably never talk to them again. So what's the big deal? Yes. You know, you call through a list of 100 people, you get 20 no's right off the bat, you get other people kind of fishing, like, you know, however the numbers work out for you. It's not like you're going to go to the mall and run into them. Yeah. You're not going to go to church and they're going to say, yeah, you know, you're never going to see this, but they're clear on the other side of the country. So, you know, it amazes me how fearful we are of dialing those first few times. Honestly, yes. Because you're just like, oh, they're going to be mad at me. Yeah. And I used to think the same way, but now I'm like, what does it matter? You know, it's like when they are mad at me, it's like, whew, that was a real tough one. I go to the next, the next one. I'm like, okay, so, you know, but your attitude towards these things, like I said, these are success principles we're teaching. We're teaching prospecting principles, right? Which these principles go in life. I mean, you could use a lot of the stuff I said tonight in getting along with your kids or your wife or your significant other or your boss. I mean, a lot of these things about attitude have to deal with things that go far beyond just this particular format, you know,
Right.
this particular medium, so to speak. So, yeah. Good call.
Great.
Good talk.